Oh, you're in speaker view in my mode, so.
Okay. All right. So how a production generally works, I'm going to start as if a lot of the talent here maybe are unsure exactly how I get work and projects coming in and how it gets into an agent or a talent's lap, right? So I'm going to go right through a list of itemized talking points, right? And so we'll wait if we can until the end for Q&A. Although if you're not clear of something that I'm talking about, jump in and ask a question. So I just want to make sure that I'm going through all the items that I want to be able to share with you today. So how a production generally works is that I get contacted by either a producer if they're doing a corporate training film, or I get contacted by an ad agency if they're working on a commercial. So the casting director is the person that they give what we refer to as the breakdown, or the casting networks. If you're working in casting networks these days, they call it the overview. But the breakdown is all of the information about the project, what we're looking for, the age ranges, the types of people, whether it's speaking or non-speaking, whether you need teleprompter, whether we're looking for teleprompter skills, all of those wonderful details. It gives us the shoot date. It gives us whether it's principal or background. Most of the work that I cast is principal for commercials and corporate training films. I also work on independent films as well. They're a different budget. So I don't know if everyone here is union. I'm assuming that they are or want to be. So most of the work in Philadelphia, unfortunately, is non-union. The bigger, better, badder stuff, I'm going to say, in a good way, badder, is union. So every professional actor strives to become a member of the union because it gives you a lot more pathway in order to move to other markets and to book those juicy speaking roles, right? So, but that's the reality of the situation, right? So non-union is how you begin anyway. Everyone begins non-union. So once the production gets to a casting office, what we'll do is we'll put it up on casting networks. Casting networks is a really cool portal. And we type in all of the information about the breakdown and send it out to the agents and managers. So right now, I work primarily through agents and managers because I cast mostly principal. If I'm casting for extras, then what I normally do is I might send it to agents. They don't, some of them work on it and some of them don't work on extras. I will put out on an email blast, something I refer to as a quick blast. It's a play on my name. It's KWICK blast. So it's an email blast that goes out to anybody that signs up from my website. And what you receive is opportunity to work on that project. At a quick blast, it's usually done for modest budgets, or maybe an agent won't work on it if it's extra or if it's speaking, but it's something for a local, say, community center where they don't have a big budget to pay a big rate, right? So rather than, and maybe they don't even have a casting budget, they just have a little bit. So I've learned to not turn that away because these are producers that are looking for talent. And I don't want to say no to people. If you're a producer, I'm going to hook you up with whomever I can, even if agents don't work on it. So I send it directly to the talent, sorry, right? So send it right to the talent. And then rather than me work on casting it, you would contact the producer directly. And that information is on the flyer that we send out on this quick blast. So it gets in front of you. You always have access to more work that way. So it could be union, it could be non-union. It's just up to you to connect with that producer. But it's a way to keep work in front of you. But we also send out other events going on with my company that way. So that's how casting is done. Jumping back to casting networks, if you're with an agent, you can get on casting networks for free because they will give you a code to insert onto casting networks portal, but you'll upload your headshot and you'll upload your resume. So you'll need to do that and make sure that you don't, when you're filling out your resume portion, sometimes you have to get in there and type it on your own. Fill it out completely, because what I do if I'm not familiar with the talent is I will go into their resume and I'll look at what you've done. You know, I will look to see the principal work or the theater background, any of your background. So really fill that out as much as possible, and don't shortcut yourself on the skills, the special skills at the bottom. If I'm looking for teleprompter proficiency or pharmaceutical proficiency, I'm looking at those skill sets if I'm not familiar with who you are. That's really your agent's job too, of course, to put you in front of the casting person so that they can say, you know, here's who I have. And then I go through and I select, because my clients, my job is that my producer that I'm working with, they don't want to go through every single agent's person, you know, people and all the talent they represent. That's way too many. So they hire a casting director and they pay the casting director, they hire me, I work for them. I work under their umbrella, the producer or the ad agency. I do not take commission from actors. So that's what an agent does. So I work for the producer and I'm their eyes and ears. And so I make sure that I go through the talent and I select who I think the producer, who the best fit is, right? So based on their skill set. And I send their headshots to the producer through the Casting Networks portal. So those of you that may not be familiar with casting networks, it's really cool what they've done lately. It's a little bit of a learning curve for everybody, but what they've done is they have created the capability for you to upload your. Is that someone speaking? A question? I didn't hear that. Did someone say something? Can you hear me?
You're okay. I just muted everybody else.
Okay. All right. All right. So thank you. So what Casting Networks has done, it's a new portal that they allow actors to upload their self-recording. So you could self-record the audition and upload it to that portal now, where before we weren't able to, you see. So it's a little more of a learning curve for actors and for everybody. We've had to go through, and we're still going through, all the bells and whistles. It's an excellent site, though. It helps us tremendously. And so for those that are not as familiar with how to self-tape, how to self-record, your agent can help you. We also try to help you too, rather than lose you. If we want to present you to the producer and you need some help, you can email us or email your agent first, because they're the first connection for you. They will help you do it. If not, I'd rather, if you really need the help, rather than lose you, ask our office. You know, email us, don't call us. We're working remotely. Everybody's working from their home office these days. So anyway, that is certainly something that you should be part of. I don't generally post to what's called the Casting Networks billboard, which is the public actors that are freelancing, unless we're looking for a specific type that is hard to find in agents. So if, you know, with agents, if you are, I don't, I'm trying to think, if you read pharmaceutical terminology and we're looking for an actor that's 60 plus, age 60 plus, and we don't have enough that we're finding within agents, then that's when I'll open it up to billboard, the public. And that's when I'll also send out a quick blast, one of those emails. So we don't get much time to cast. We probably get about 3 days. If we're lucky, we might get 5 days. So I always try to get 5 days notice, because we want to give actors enough time to self-record, as much time as possible. So with the self-recordings, my office sends out an attachment with the script portion and also some instruction on how to frame, how to slate your name, any type of information we can give to you. It's just so different, these days. You'll need, it's easier to be in person auditioning, but nobody's auditioning in person these days yet. So for that reason, it's much more convenient, of course, to self-record, but you don't get those the wonderful connection when you're in the audition room with a producer or director or the casting person, so we try to give as much information as possible. When you're doing a scene, I'm kind of getting off my items here, but while we're on the subject of self-recording, when you're doing a scene with someone, rather than put them right next to you and us or the producer only being able to see the screenshot of you as a profile, you want to place them more angled to you. So I'm looking over here, for example, right? And they're not next to the camera because you don't want them next to the camera where the microphone is. You don't want your scene partner, because it's usually maybe a family member or someone. You don't want them on camera because it's just for you, right? It's your audition. So you don't want them next to the mic so that you're hearing their voice first. And it's louder. It can't be louder than yours. You'll have them stand next to the mic and back further beyond the camera. So you'll have to play with that a little bit to find a happy medium so that you're looking near the camera. See that my lens is right here. I'm looking into the lens, right? But your scene partner is next to it. So I can still see your face, right? But your scene partner is back further, right? If another little tip of self-recording is you could have your script be near your script partner. Maybe you scotch tape it or something near them. So you're not looking into the camera because it's not that type of a shot. It's a scene that we're looking at the scene. But rather than you looking down at your script, looking up at your scene partner, down at your script, up, you see what I mean? That's way too much of us looking at the top of your eyeballs, right? Your eyelids. So we want to be able to capture as much as we can, because that's where all the wonderful magic happens in your face and your expressions, right? Anyway, so, that's what I have to say about self-recording. We've had to learn so fast over the last year and a half. And so I don't see that going away. It's going to be here for a while. It's convenient. And I still have my office in Delaware Avenue that I go into water the plants every couple of weeks, but that's what's going on. A lot of voiceover casting these days as well. So with voiceover casting, I've had to throw my net into the New York market as well as Philly, because the clients are looking for those that have their own professional home studio. So if you don't know how to create one, and I'm not saying just go ahead and create one if you're not a voiceover talent. It's not as easy as that. You still need to be an actor first and then learn how to use your voice. However, if you are already a voice talent and you're booking work and you don't have a professional studio, find information on how to create one. I know that if you're not familiar, email my office at info@wicklinecasting.com, right? And then we can give you some ideas on where to find that information that's inexpensive. So, all right. Now, mature actors, right? My notepad's falling down here. So mature actors, there's a lot of work for those that are over 30, over 40, over 50, over 60. So probably 75% of my work is that. So the older you are, the less competition there is for you in this business. I do a lot of pharmaceutical and healthcare casting, and that's the bulk of the work that I'm looking for. You see, the bulk of the ages, and the bulk of the ages that I'm casting, I mean, is 35 to 65 to 70. So I do, there's a seminar that I put on called Never Too Late. And the person that I have leading that seminar is someone who started when he was mid-50s. And he's booking like crazy. He's also a filmmaker. Michael Johnson is his name. So he's a wonderful human, and he's doing incredibly well. And who better than him to share, you know? The difference, let's talk about the difference between a casting director and an agent, right? So I think many of you know, but for those that don't, I don't represent actors. I used to represent actors when I was an agent. And I was a franchise agent too from 1985 to 91, right? So I moved into casting in 1991, and you cannot be an agent and a casting director together in one office. So that's, so I moved into being a casting director because as an agent, I represented agents and models, and I really loved working with talent. So I decided to join a casting company, Gail Walton Casting, who was around back then. And so I, in 1991, she moved away and got out of the business, and I bought her company. So, and I did not, I closed my agency. So as an agent, you represent actors, you take commission. That's how you make your living. You take commission from actors, but you also are able to charge a service fee to the producer or the ad agency. So that's how they work. They don't work on just commission, so they would never be able to survive. Now there's a certain amount of commission that they're permitted to take depending on the job. I think with print jobs, that's modeling, right? So many actors we use for print, it's lifestyle print, slice of life people. I'm not talking about fashion modeling, I'm talking about print. You see print jobs all the time. So you can also do that. So stretch your skill set. You don't have to take any classes to be a print model. It's just there with your agent. They have a print division. So with print, it's 20% that you pay the agent. So, and the agent will bill and invoice the client for you. You won't be in the position where you have to send an invoice to the producer unless you're freelancing. So for those of you, and this is important too, I'm working on a project now that the producer's hiring actors directly because it's more of a modest budget. And they have about 30 actors that they're hiring. And so I said to them, make sure that you have W-9s on set and a sample invoice for the actors, because a lot of them do forget to send an invoice afterward. So make it convenient for your bookkeeper, have it there on set and have them fill it out and take the paperwork back, and it's done. So I'm one of those people that, because I worked on the agency end before, is I want to make sure that I'm crossing the T's and dotting the I's and trying to foresee any possible wrinkle that could happen on set or later, right? So I really try to take care of the producer and the actor, because it's hard to take the agent out of me, to make sure that everyone is taken care of, you know. So try to get that ironed out ahead of time. If you have any questions on projects, always ask your agent. Don't jump right to the casting director if you have an agent involved. So, and the agent will contact us, because they do. We're readily available. All right, so let's talk about freelancing. If you don't have an agent yet, that's fine. You can find work on your own. You probably won't get casting notices from the casting, or from my office at least. But what you could do is eventually join with an agency, you see, when you get more credits. So what that means is that the more you work, an agency will be interested in you, because let's face it, they're looking for actors that can read copy, right? Again, I'm only coming from principle for me because I don't do a lot of extras casting. See, so I can speak to that a little bit, but if you have any questions later. Now, where do you get leads to be continuing to work outside of an agent, right? So if you're freelancing and you want to continue working, there's a couple of great websites that you should be aware of. The Greater Philadelphia Film Office is a film office that has wonderful resources, right? Every major city has a film office, and their job is to be a support system for filmmakers and actors and casting directors, anybody in the film production, pre-production, post-production. It's a free site, so it's film.org. It's so easy to remember, film.org. So you would go onto their site and you'll see a tab that says jobs or job listings. So you'll go through that and do the drop-down box to find a job. And on that page you're going to think that you hit pay dirt here, because there's a lot of postings for all kinds of projects. So you're going to look for anything under cast. Now, some of them, of course, are non-union, but there are some union projects as well. Now, you would send your headshot and resume, and I would say do a self-recorded monologue too, because that's going to get you seen quicker than other people just sending in their headshot resume, right? So a lot of actors don't think about how do you get to the front of the line like that. And that's how you get to the front of the line, is by recording a monologue, whether it's one or two monologues, and you upload that footage along with your picture resume, but make sure that you let the producer know that you're also including that, just to give them a feel for your acting skills, right? So that helps them a lot. You'll be sending directly to the producer through film.org. So I would recommend checking that site a couple of times a week. And there are pages and pages of projects. You can go back 3 months on projects that were posted 3 months ago, because maybe they were postponed, especially the independent films, right? I'm really speaking about independent films that are postponed because they sometimes lose location. They sometimes lose talent, or something happened. Remember, independent films are not so tightly scheduled, so they're more apt to be kicked down the schedule a little bit and postponed. But go back 3 months on that page on film.org and still submit. And here's the other reason why I recommend doing that is you become part of the producer's talent pool. The more talent that they receive, they're not going to delete you. They're saving you for other projects that they may have, right? They're building their talent pool of actors and talent that they can reach out to in the future. So if they don't reach out to you right away, you might get an email in the future and you'll wonder where that came from. So everything you send out is not wasted. See, Backstage is another place where you can find work. Now, a lot of it is in New York, of course, but some of it could be for episodic TV or film. So there's Backstage. There's also, I know Actors Access, I think they charge or something per submission. I don't want to see you get involved with paying to submit so much, unless you're reaping some reward, All right, now I'm going to take a swig of water first here. I want to cover resumes. Now, resumes for acting is different. It's totally different than a business resume. I'm going to put this in front of you here. This is somebody that we made up. Your name is large on the top. Under your name would be any union affiliation, if you have one. The information for you would be your email address, your phone number. Now, when you're using an email, I recommend using your real name. And then you can put the word actor after that. What we don't want to see is something like a vanity email, like Psycho Kitty 123, right? So we want your name, be professional about it, right? So, and keep it separate from your personal email. This way you can log into your account.
No, go ahead. I had a,
We're good? Okay. All right. It still says, please stand by on my end. Can you hear me? For everyone?
you're good.
I'm good. Okay. All right. So one side you have the email address and your phone number, right? The other side is your height and weight, hair color, eye color. We do not want sizes here. The reason we don't want sizes is that if we want sizes, it's only because wardrobe is being provided for you for that job, right? And so we will never look at your resume for correct sizes anyway, because it could be 6 months old. We'll always connect with you. So don't even bother doing that. All right, so the way that it's laid out here is an acting resume. It's 3 columns, right? The first column will have the different headings, whether it's film or theater, corporate, industrial. The middle column is, anyway, the first column is the name of the project, right? The middle column will be the role that you played. And the right column is the name of the production company or the theater. So notice that we don't have any years here. We don't care about the years. Of course, you're not going back to high school to get your high school play if you're 30 years old, you know, so it has to be relative to pretty recent, right? All right. So as you move your way down, you can get into the training where you've trained and also special skills. And the special skills, this is where you would put something, say teleprompter or pharmaceutical terminology. Those are wonderful skills. Or it could, you know, we're always looking for spokesperson. If you, let me get back to this again. If you let's say under corporate or industrial. So it's pretty much the same thing. Industrial is Toyota Corporation or Toyota industry, automotive industry rather, right? Toyota is automotive, and where Bristol Myers Squibb is pharmaceutical. So that's industry. The corporate would be more of a training for, say, Rite Aid Corporation, right? Or somebody that's not big industry. But in our world, it's the same, right? It's not a commercial. If you have booked many spokes roles, narration and all, a lot of them, like way too many to put on under corporate, then what I would recommend saying is over 50 plus spokesperson roles, right? Something like that looks great on a resume. This way you won't have to list all 50. The resume should be on one page. That's another reason why you don't want to list way too many projects. So you're going to pick your biggest and best. Now we can tell, a casting person can tell by this middle column what's principal and what's background, what's extra, right? So background artists are the same as extra. So principal would be, you know, Daddy Warbucks right here. We know that's a speaking role in theater. An interviewer here on corporate, we know that that is a speaking role, right? But other type of generic type of titles would be Lobster Number 4, see, Lost Child, just generic roles. We can tell that that's extra. Now, we really don't want to see extra roles on a resume. So I am speaking to those that are interested in principal work, right now. And then I'll talk about extras in a moment. But with principal, we're looking for that middle column with names, titles that you've booked. We can tell that's principal. That means a lot to us. And so when we're casting, remember, we only have a couple of days to select people from casting networks. And I don't know who you are. If I go into your resume, that helps me out a lot. As far as extra work goes, there are people that are only interested in doing extra work. So I don't really reach out unless I'm looking for a lot of extras. And I did that, I think about 2 years ago, we were looking to fill the Tower Theater. I think we needed 200 people per day or 300 people per day. And it needed to be consistent, the same people on day one and day two. That was different, so, but there are other casting people in Philly that handle both. So anyway, that's how we look at a resume, and that's how a resume should be laid out. When you go to an audition in person, maybe someday again, you're going to have your resume attached to the back of your headshot. Okay. So as far as being an extra, I would recommend going onto film.org because you could find a lot of work there. They are always looking for background and extras there. And also backstage. They're always looking for extras, right? And so also casting directors in Philly, right? All right, now, let's talk about headshots. For those of you that do not have a headshot, first and foremost, you'll need to find out what is your type, right? And how do you find that out? You find that out, your agent, of course, will help you out. But if you don't have an agent yet, you want to ask people, right? Ask your friends and family, what is my type? How would you see me? Because they're going to tell you, well, you look like a neighbor next door. Oh, you look like you could be a doctor, or you look like you could be a lab technician or a coach, right? So they're going to give you all types of, as much as possible that they can, give you, that would be great. Now, if they say something to you, well, you look like you could be a thug, that has to be within your acting skill set, because it's not about just what you could portray in your headshots. You need to back that up, right? So you need to back that up. So branding is, yes, someone just asked me about branding. Yes, it's exactly, branding is, how are you branding yourself? So pictures speak louder than words sometimes. So this person here, this is his headshot. Now headshots these days are not just headshots, they're half shots, right? So he is, when he had his headshots done, he took this shot because he books thugs and tough guys and all that good stuff, right? However, in fact, he booked Blue Bloods with this as a principal thug, and it worked for him, right? But when he had these headshots done, he bought a change of clothes and he bought a razor. After this shot was done, he changed, right? He changed, and there you go. That's his other shot, which is the dad next door. It's a coach. See? So that he's branding his way. This is all encompassing of dad, of teacher, of coach, right? It could also look corporate, right? So he doesn't have to necessarily have a suit and tie, which, by the way, is rarely asked these days. Everything's pretty much business casual. So don't worry about those suit and ties, unless you know that you are a spokesperson and you're going for, there are people that hone in on that skill set, that they really want to be an on-camera host and spokesperson, you see. So it's a different type of branding, and not that they couldn't do the others, right? So that's where you're going to, yeah, this is one of my favorite samples. He's no longer in the business, but it's still one of my favorite selections to show you. Casual, business casual. So this is casual, right? Not so much business, but it's just weight is from the waist up, right? It's just real. It's lovely. And so this works for her, right? And so you can reach out, and she could be your best friend. You see, she could be a mom, she could be a teacher, she could be a doctor, right? So you get to see that through this type of a shot. If you are, grab something else, here's another one. I have a business casual, more casual, but it's still, I can see, or anyone that's casting or a director can look at her and see, all right, yeah, mom or teacher, doctor, you see all of that. You don't want to be too made up and too restricted in the clothing that you're choosing for on camera, because that doesn't help us out. We're not looking, we don't want you, in fact, to have jewelry on. We don't want you to have a lot of makeup on. It needs to be natural. And even with your hair, we're not looking for big upsweeps or any type of fashion statements. Clothing to stay away from would be anything that's constructed, like, in other words, those dolman sleeves, right, for women, or which are like bat wings, like the big bulky clothing, which big bulky sweaters, which may be beautiful in person, but remember, camera distorts things, and camera adds about 10 pounds onto you, so we won't be able to see how you're built. And that doesn't mean that you need to be any specific size as far as the body size. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is stay away from those clothes, like the high-low dresses, where the hem is uneven, maybe it's shorter in the front, longer in the back. Again, it may be beautiful, but not for the headshot, right? Ruffles, turtlenecks, bold colors, big stripes. So everything needs to be a little more muted down. Just think clothing that may have been worn 10 years ago and will be fine 10 years into the future, which is what this is, which is what this is. You see what I mean? It's timeless, and which is what this is. Right. Even though he has plaid on, I can probably best assure you that he has that shirt pulled in the back and with a clothespin. You see what I mean? So anyway, but that's the styling that's done with a professional photographer, right? So, headshots could vary with different rates. You just have to find the best person for a headshot that, and you can join some Facebook groups and ask in Philadelphia, who do they recommend as a headshot photographer, right? I have several of them that I recommend. But anyway, join those Facebook groups too, because they are very helpful in sharing other projects that are going on. I know Michael Johnson, for example, he's the guy that leads my Never Too Late seminar. Michael Johnson is always sharing any projects that are going on that are out on film.org. He also shares them in other cities, maybe Delaware, Maryland. Let's see. So now, preparation for on-camera auditioning. If you're new to this business, you need to go somewhere and learn on camera and how to speak to camera, right? You need to learn how to have a home studio these days. Now, I'm not saying run out and buy a professional camera. I'm not saying that, because there's some wonderful smartphones that take great footage, and we can't tell. We're fine. We casting people and directors are fine if you shoot on your smartphone, right? It's whatever you can shoot on. However, and this is important as far as framing goes. When you frame, you want to make sure that your camera is eye level, unless the instructions for that audition tell you otherwise. But most of the framing is you want to put your camera up eye level, and you want to make sure that your camera is landscaped and not vertical. And the reason for that is if you film vertically, then we're going to see it with the two black bars on the side and your footage is in the middle. You've seen videos like that, I'm sure. But if you have it landscaped, then you'll take up the whole frame. So the framing is eye level, right? It's eye level. So you're not going to be giving a shot of where, well, let me just show you what it looks like. Where, no, let me do this. Oh, I'm messing up my screen, but I'm doing it purposely. All right, so we don't want it like this, where you're looking up. We don't want it looking down like this, right? We don't want with a lot of airspace. Like I can't even back up. We don't want all that, see that all that airspace above my head, right? We don't want any of that. We want to see right to the top of the head, right there. See that? Now, that doesn't mean that right now you're just seeing the head and shoulders of me, but we may say to you, well, we need a half shot from the, which means it's always from the top of the head to the waist, right? We're going to give you instructions. Every casting director will give you instructions on what type of frame they want to see. And so some may say they want a slate, and the slate is your first and last name. We don't need to hear your agent on camera. We don't want that. I don't want that because, and you're used to saying that because your agent's saying, make sure you say my agency name after your slate. We know where we're getting you from. You know, we all know that. So does the director. So they're going to contact your agent. So we just want your first and last name. And then sometimes the slate, the casting person will want a separate slate. So which means that you can't go right into the read because the reading might be a half shot from the waist up. So here's what I recommend doing. And a lot of actors are starting to do this. Take a separate slate, right? And get your, just nice business casual, something that will be accepted across the board, like those headshots that I had shown you of the timeless type of clothing, right? Get a color that you look good in, right? Something that's not distracting. Natural hair, natural makeup. Just do the slate. Have someone do your slate and then have that live on your desktop. Guess what? That could be your slate from now on in if a casting person wants a different slate, because otherwise you're doing a slate and then you're walking towards your camera to stop it and then walking and then pressing record again to walk back to get into frame for the next shot for your audition. And that's just distracting, right? So do your professional slate, have it live on your desktop, and just pull that clip into future auditions. You know what I mean? It'll be a different clothing, but it doesn't matter. So it's rare that someone would complain about that. So it just may be a little confusing when we're uploading, but we see it because you're identifying. Now, when you're here's so important too, is that when you're uploading your clips, make sure that you're identifying your name. Now, if you're on Casting Network's portal, that already does it for you, which is great. However, if you're uploading your footage through an email that you're sending to a producer or casting director, don't have it show up as, IMG number, right? Save it as your name. Does that make sense? So it's pretty easy to just, right click and save your name and send it that way. All right, how are we doing time wise? All right, now I know I'm pretty much coming to the end anyway. Let's just open it up to Q&A because what time is this over?
Whenever.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I have about another 15 minutes if that helps you out. So
that's fine with me. We can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
People can
so
come and go as needed. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I cannot cover contracts, usage, and terms, anything like that. That's something I go over, but that's more so for the non-union folks when I do this type of a seminar. avoiding pitfalls. I'll go over some of the pet peeves just so that you kind of know. Anybody that we're submitting to the producer, please know that we don't submit tons of actors, right? For a principal role, we'll narrow it down to maybe 15 or 20 for a producer because they don't want to see 50 or 100. They just don't have time to sit through that, so they want to only see maybe 15 or 20, so per role. So what that means is that we are submitting you and you're available for that shoot date, right? So with the shoot date, we always give that in the breakdowns. So no, we understand, and my office understands that you're also auditioning for hopefully you're auditioning for other roles elsewhere, right? But if we ask you for a first refusal for that shoot date, that means that you're seriously being considered by the client, that they've narrowed it down, and now they are seriously considering you and maybe 3 other people, right? So that means your first refusal is, please don't accept, it's a consideration, please don't accept any work for that day. However, if you know other work, like from other casting people or other projects, so you're going to not accept any work for that particular day. But what if you get an opportunity for a definite booking from someone else for that same shoot date? Then you get back to the person who asked you for a first refusal and ask them to book you or release you so that you can get that other job, because you don't want to lose any work either, right? So even though you're giving us a yes, you'll accept first refusal for that particular shoot date, and you're not going to accept any other work unless you have to. Don't accept that other job until you get back to us to give us first chance to book you. And then we would get back to my client and say, we need you to book or release this actor by maybe tomorrow morning. We'll give them a couple hours or a day before you lose that other job, right? Book, right, exactly. Book or release, that's the term, right? So a lot of actors don't know what the word first refusal means. So we cannot say the word hold, because under the union terminology, hold means that you're definitely being booked and they want you to hold that date. So we don't use the H word unless we know for sure you're going to book it, right? So I never use that hold word with non-union either. First refusal means give us first right of refusal for you. And that's like confusing, I understand. So, but that just means give us first chance to book you or release you before you work elsewhere. So a pet peeve is that you don't do that. You would get back to us and say, even if you're in first refusal and you accepted the first refusal, a pet peeve would be, hey, Kath, I know you have me considered for first refusal for this date, but I booked something else. That's a no-no, because that would not be good for us, because if you're seriously being considered, and you may be the only person on first refusal, you don't know that. And it may just be location that the producer has issues with, and they just want you to, they may have to change location or whatever, or the date, but they just want to make sure that you're on first refusal there. So you don't ever do that to a casting person. You will not be looked at kindly going forward if you do that, So it's a professional business, right? By the same token, you should be released from first refusal. So your agent can always get back to the casting person and ask, is he or she still on first refusal? And then we'll release you if we need to. So it works both ways. All right. So I think that's pretty much what I need to cover. So let's open it up to questions, because I want to see what you have in your head and what I can help out with.
I'm just going to start with a couple quick ones.
Okay.
if you're in the non-acting side of things, is film org and backstage a good place to look? In other words, the technical side?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, exactly, yes. Film.org also has crew and staff
Yeah,
jobs on there. Yeah, it's a great site. And remember to go back pages. Go back to all those, maybe 3 or 4 pages. You maybe go back a couple of months, because in this time of working remotely, things are postponed.
And is it true you still need 3 jobs before you can get your card?
Uh, yeah, you know what? That's a loaded question. So in the union, I think this is still the same. It's 1 waiver, 1 Taft-Hartley waiver as a principal, and then it's 3 as background or extra. However, from what I understand is if you work in film and you get 3 waivers within that 1 month, suppose you're working in a jury, right? A jury scene, and you're a member of a jury, and that you're required there 3 different times in that month to be part of continuity, right? You need to be the same jurors in that scene. So within that 30-day period, that counts as 1 waiver. But if you're an extra and you know that it's down on a union contract, then 3 union waivers in different projects. Then after that, you're eligible to join. Here's what I say. I need to say this now because, guys, once you join the union, you can't do non-union, right? So someone had said it's like getting married. You marry, you can't date. So know that you want to make sure that you're joining the union when your skill set is up to par. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. Let's get back to this resume. Remember that middle column? When you start booking principal work, now this could be non-union too, all this non-union work, which is still strong, but it's principal. And then you know that, and you have a lot of theater, that's a strong resume. So then you've worked on some extra work, or you're eligible to join, then that's a good time to join. But the credentials need to be behind you. I had a situation it had to be maybe 20 years ago, right? This is back when you could just join AFTRA when they weren't merged, right? The unions were not merged back then. And so an actor who was probably 55, he did a couple of extras, right? 3 waivers as an extra, different projects. And he went in right away and joined AFTRA, and his work stopped because I couldn't call him in for any principal work for non-union. You see, so, and then he didn't have enough training, and he didn't have theater background, and he did not have the credentials. So I say, and this is aside from being in the wonderful union and all their great perks. It just because you have that card, that doesn't mean you're going to be called in for principal. However, as quick as I say that, if you're interested in doing extra work, there's a lot to be had under the union, under SAG. So that's cool too, you see. So it depends on where you are and where you project yourself. You need to make sure that you're booking if you're interested in principal work, booking principal, speaking roles and all that. So.
And the third question, and this is kind of tongue in cheek, but how true was La La Land?
Oh, I don't know. I did not work on that. What do you mean? How true is that?
Well, I mean the presentation of what you have to go through as far as book or reads and casting and things of that nature.
I didn't work on that. I can you maybe ask me in a different way.
Part of the movie was her going through and getting auditions and things like that.
Oh, I hear you now. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a lot of auditioning that you need to do in this industry. Your agency should help you as far as getting you to the next level. Your talent agency might have some feedback for you, right? And the feedback could be, let me give you a sample. I was listening to a self-recorded audition last night, right? And this actor that I know has been in the business for probably 15 years, right? A lot of what he does is background, and he's non-union. He does maybe some theater as well sometime, but independent films too. But he's regional. His speech is very regional, like the Philly accent, hoagie and Coke and coffee and all that stuff, right? Which is fine if you're going to stay here and do background work. But I needed to, somehow he got in, his agent put him in as a self-recording, but I needed to remove him because the project that I'm putting him in they can't use an accent, the regional, they can't use that. So if an agent is telling you, my point is, if an agent is telling you, I mean, you could be doing as many classes as possible, but if you're regional and your agent's saying, you're saying to the agent, how come I'm not booking? They need to be telling you because you're regional, right? And do some speech and diction classes somewhere to get rid of it, or to be able to at least take that regionalism, put it in your back pocket and call upon that when needed. But most jobs require non-regional. And that's usually, the shot in the foot when it comes to speaking roles. So did that help you out? I mean, I really kind of got off target there, but
Well, that was just kind of a general,
booking.
because I'm sure that question, people see the movie and they go, oh, this is what you have to go through, kind of thing. And it's like, yes, no, maybe, kind of thing. Yeah.
You have to audition a lot, self-record a lot, right? And then hopefully your audition, you book, 30% of that, which would be lovely, so.
Lee, I think you had
I have a couple questions and then one just for fun. You gave your email out, info@wickline.com. What is?
No, actually it's info@Wickline Casting.
Okay, I didn't, okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm taking notes.
Wicklinecasting.com.
Casting. So that is the website. Okay.
No, oh yeah, Wickline Casting is the website, right? So if you go to the website and you scroll down to the bottom, you can join the mailing list that way.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
That's great. Another question, which actually for me goes back many, many years. Because I've been steadily working, the goal is of a talent is to work. So if you have a daily job where you go in and you get paid for it, like doing a radio show, that has to take priority. But
of
some
course,
great projects have come along. Some I was on vacation, so yeah, I sent in, great, I worked. But I was told long ago, don't send your resume in, because if they call you and you're not available, they're not going to call again. Is that true or not true?
that sounds like a very general question, a very general answer. I think that's more specific to what that person's need was.
Oh, okay.
So give me the context of how you're asking.
The context is, say M. Night Shyamalan was shooting another film, and you sent in your picture and resume, and then they call you to come in and whatever. If you're not available for when they need you, they would basically throw your thing away and never call you again.
So from what it's usually the casting office that contacts the actor. And so I don't know. So whomever's working on that particular project, just listen to their instructions.
All right.
So, but when the projects that I'm working on are commercials and corporate, right? And so I need the resumes to look at on casting networks, right? To see whether or not your special skills fit the project, right?
And those are people, agents who have their listing,
right?
Which is
okay. Yeah,
I'm a freelancer. Okay.
Oh, okay. So you're a freelancer. So, and you may be getting what the quick blast in the future from my office, right?
Yeah.
Which is right. And so the quick blast, you do have to contact the producer you send your headshot and resume to the producer, right? So that's what they ask for. With my jobs, it may be different with film, but all of my jobs, they're looking at your headshot and resume because they may want to see that what your height and weight is, or they may want to see anything else on the resume. They may want to see your theater background. I'm getting ready to cast for, every year I cast for Temple University film students, their senior film students, right? I'm also doing Swarthmore University, the same thing, the directing students. So they're going to cast union and non-union. It's their student projects.
Right.
So they do want to see, I'm showing them in a seminar next week, because I've two different seminars lined up for each, how to read a resume. Right. And so I'm making sure that they're paying special attention, because it's filmed, to the theater and also to the principals, all the principal roles that they're booking. I'm showing the students how to read a resume. So my answer is different.
Okay.
You know, my answer is totally different for you.
Yeah, see, so many times I didn't send in anything because I would only have a week or 2 weeks during that filming in Philadelphia or the area in which to work. And my fear was they would call me to work and I would not be available. And then I'd go on the bad list. Not, you know, I didn't want to be blacklisted or whatever. So I never said anything.
Yeah, I don't know how that works with that particular
Okay.
casting company. I don't know. So
Well, it was a general comment by somebody.
yeah. Oh, it has to, if it's coming from somebody other than the casting company, don't listen.
Oh,
Oh my God. Oh, all right. I didn't know
I'm such
that.
a dummy.
No, oh yeah. You got to be careful about the advice that you hear, you know.
And I do
So
have, I have a third question just for fun. Of the productions that are that represent Philadelphia, both film and TV, and show scenes in Philadelphia City Hall and the Italian Market and the Love Statue, how many of those productions, and they refer to Philadelphia throughout the productions, how many of them are actually filmed in Philadelphia, and how much talent is used from Philadelphia, if any?
all right. So there are, do you know what an establishing shot is? Have you heard of that term, establishing shot?
It sounds like it would be like the Love Statue kind of thing.
Exactly. Right. Anything that would be, you look at it and you say, oh, that's Philly. Right. But there are a lot of productions that are not shot in Philly, but the storyline is in Philly. So they'll have those establishing shots. Right.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you knew if any of them actually brought their dollars and the work to the city that is represented.
Sometimes they do. Sure. Sometimes they do.
Like we know Adam Goldberg isn't shooting in Philadelphia, but he should.
So some of them do and some of them don't. Just depends on you know, the project. So it's not there's no general answer on that.
Okay.
For example, I know Cold Case, when that was shot years ago, that was not filmed here. Some of the establishing shots were, I mean, all of the establishing shots were, and some of the shots were where they would put in some background talent to walk on the street, right? That was individual cases, but I'm not here to speak about that particular project. I'm giving you some type of answer that can't be general, you know, so.
In other words, we should
Yeah,
look for the casting agent of any of those shows.
exactly.
Okay.
All right, great. So
Thank
any
you.
other questions from someone else? Thank you, Lee. Anyone else have a question that I can help with, or
No, it looks like everybody's
we're good? All right.
good. Yeah, everybody's waiting for lunch, I guess.
I know, right?
We're
All
all
right, so-
muted. We're all muted. We were
Oh.
all muted.
Okay, great. So Jackie, you have a question?
I
Hi.
don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for
You're welcome.
today.
Yeah, you're
you-
welcome.
Your information was phenomenal, and I'm sure will help a lot of people who were interested in doing extra work or principal work. And I'm so glad that this is going out on YouTube, so we can just tell people who want to know more to watch this on YouTube later today. I think it'll be.
Yeah, and I do offer, if there's not enough information,
Mhm.
personal information that speaks directly to you, you know, as an actor, I have private consultations, one-on-one, and they're on my website.
Okay.
So
Well,
you
that-
can always look at that and see if that suits you. I do cover a lot on private consultation that we did today, but sometimes it's definitely more geared in a personal level to you and how you can, you know, get started safely and all. So anyway,
Well, thank you.
So
The
that's
program was enormously informative.
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
You
glad.
did a Great job.
Great. Thank you. It's good. Hopefully I'll be able to see you all on Casting Networks or on my in my email submission someday.
Okay,
Great. Good luck, guys. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
And as they say, that's a wrap for today.
Good.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Tune in next month for another exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Bye all.
Oh, okay.
What, you have something?
No,
Oh, okay. Bye.
just a noisy clock.
Oh.
All right.